right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today we have a super awesome guest, one of my newest good friends. We met him over the last year. It's been really fun to get to know Paul. Today we have a special guest, like I said, Paul Jamison. He is the host of the Green Industry Podcast, which is probably, if not, the number one podcast in the lawn care space as of now. He just told me he's on episode 1250, so he's a long ways ahead of us. He's a 5-time bestseller, and I think he was at 3.5 million downloads. I don't know where you're at now, Paul. I'm excited to hear the update, and just thanks for being on the show.
Good to chat with you again, Jonas.
It's the other way around this time. You're on my podcast.
Yeah, your name comes up a lot. I was talking with Pajak and Naylor yesterday, and the old Jonas Olson name dropped a time or two. So
I wonder if it was good or bad. I'm not sure.
It is very good, and just the power of networking. We kind of talked about how all the dots have been connected, and your YouTube success in a way can trace back to Naylor and Jonathan Potoshnik, and it's like a web that all goes together. And so it's really cool. What happens when you take initiative like you to go network with others? That you met Jeremy and Naylor and me and Pajak, and from what I understand, you're blowing up on YouTube.
Yeah, it was a fun. Like I said, we were sitting back at the conference, and I was talking to Jonathan about YouTube and videos and whatnot. He's like, "Hey, you need to meet this Naylor guy." And I happened to walk out. And as I was walking out, he was standing at the back, and he's wearing his shirt. I think it said Naylor on it. I was like, "Hey, you're Naylor. You're the guy I was looking for." And right then and there, he's like, "Yeah, I'm having this event coming up." He's like, "You should sign up." I'm like, "Just give me your phone." I signed up right on the spot.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about, because he's like, we're like, Naylor's doing the event again, and he's like, "There's all these tire kickers." They're like, "Well, it's too much, and I don't know." And then he's like, and Jonas just came up. It's like boom, 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 boom. And like, I just met him, and 2 minutes later, he got the VIP ticket to my event.
Yeah, so it was really fun. And then, of course, that's the first time I got to see you, and you were speaking up on stage, and got to see what you were doing. I was like, "Man, that looks really cool. This is the way that we're headed." And then just making the connection with you was pretty fantastic. And then I think it was like 2 weeks later, we had another event together at Jason's event.
Jason Creole, Lawn Care Life Conference.
Yeah, so it wasn't too much longer after that, So yeah, it all just stemmed back to you guys. You guys made the introduction there. So yeah, it's been fun. But yeah, it's funny how you said like how the networking works,
Yeah. And then your YouTube channel, because when you came to the event, your YouTube was not nearly as big as it is now. What happened from then to now?
I think we were right at like 30,000 subs when I got there, and we were stuck though. And I didn't know how to get us unstuck. So like anything, we were at your event, and Jeremy was there, and he was a YouTube coach, and he's like, "Hey, you should do this, this, and this." And I was like, "Screw this," same thing. Walked up to the stage, said, "Hey, I want to hire you on the spot." He's like, "Okay, sounds good." Hired him right there, put it on my credit card, and walked away. And the next thing you know, a week later, we're on a call, and it's just been...
Now you got a silver play. Where's the silver play button? You sleep with that thing?
It's next to my bed. Yeah.
All right.
I
was joking, but apparently not.
It's under my pillow.
Is it really?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Really. How many subscribers do you have now?
I don't know. 130? Let me look. So I think we gained like 100,000 subs, but every time we had a couple of videos go viral again, and those bring in a lot. We are at 129,436.
Congratulations.
In the past 30 days, we're at 6.6 million views and 3.5 thousand subscribers in the last 30 days. So it's clipping along, but we've been working at it hard as a team. Sofia and Dalton and all of us have been working hard at it. We're posting fives. I don't even know what it's 4, 5, 6 days a week at this point. So like you said, like it's going to turn into a full-time job, and it definitely did.
Oh yeah. It's a lot of work, and that 4, 5, 6 times a week. So it's just basically one video a day you post, or?
Yeah, just one short a day. We just started getting into long form. In fact, I recorded my first long form video last week. It's like 6 to 10 minutes long. And we're going to try to do a couple a month just to, get more ad time, That's how we make our money in the long run. So yeah, it's just been working on that. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. You're the guest. Why don't you just give us a rundown of how you got in the industry, in the green industry to begin with, then how you got into podcasting, what you've done with Podcast Row, things like that, and then the massive shift that you made in the past year.
Yeah, totally. Thanks, Jonas. So number one, the lawn business started in 2011 with zero entrepreneurship skills or mentalities. I was an employee through and through, from a golf caddy to I got fired at Best Burger, which is a low point in my life. and then you got to be a loser to get fired at Best Burger, man. So, but my life's changed since then. I'm a winner now. But back then I was broke, busted, disgusted, couldn't be trusted. Worked at the dining hall in college. I mean, I'm talking $8, $9, $10 an hour jobs. I think my biggest job was $10 an hour at an accounting firm. I was their office runner, and just I'd do stuff for them for $10 an hour. So when I started my lawn business, one of my first customers, this is 2011, I charged her $25. But in my mind, I was like, man, it's only going to take me 45 minutes. Like I felt like I was robbing her. Like I was like, $25. Like, my other buddies are making 10, 11, $12 an hour. I was like, $25. And I mow her yard. It took an hour, 45 minutes. I was like, this is crazy. Like, cause that's how my mind viewed, but I didn't realize I had to pay for the fuel I had a Honda Accord. I had to pay for fuel to put in the Honda Accord. I had to, put fuel in the mower, eventually buy string for the weed eater and all the business expenses. I didn't understand that part of the thing. So I just thought I was putting $25 in my pocket, which I was, but you know how business works. You have revenue and expenses. So when I started my business in 2011, I didn't know nothing. And I quickly gained a lot of customers in the hood that I was living in, which wasn't that nice of an service area. And so I went through about 3, 4, 5 years of just really difficult times. I fell in love with business, and I fell in love with actually lawn care. I actually love manicuring a lawn and making it look beautiful. And I love being outside, and I started loving my customers, but I wasn't making any money. I mean, I was making 6-figure revenue, but then I was spending the same amount I was making. So I actually was working at Carrabba's Italian Grill as a server in the evenings for a few years. And around 2014, 2013, I started finding on YouTube Naylor Taliaferro and Keith Kalfas, and all these guys were sharing their story. And I was like, they're just like me. They're like, yeah, I'm just learning this, I'm learning that. And I was like, it made me feel better. I was like, okay, I'm not the only one out here, on the struggle bus. And so I started learning from them, and I became friends with them because I'd write in the comments, thanks so much, Naylor, for sharing. Like I made the same mistake last week, or like, I just became friends with these guys, Greg Chisholm, Geek to Freak, and Johnny Moe, and Jason Creole, and all these guys. So I started learning from them. And then in 2015, 16, things really started getting good. Like the profit started growing. I stopped working at Carrabba's. I just did lawn care full time, and I was off to the races, and I thought I was going to do it for the rest of my life. I've shared with you off air that my customers was the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, the defensive coordinator, several of these guys that are star players on the team. I had really, really, really nice homes, card on file. I learned that from Jonathan Potoshnik, and life was good. And so in 2018, I started the podcast to share my story. Like, hey, if you're starting a lawn business, I can tell you everything not to do, and I can tell you actually how I'm crushing it right now. And so that's the show that we started in 2018, and it became increasing popular in the industry as I started interviewing all the other leaders that I could, connect with and have them on my program. In 2018, 2019, 2020, the show started really growing, and it was in the top 100 of business podcasts in 2020. And I was in a new predicament now because I'm serving all these people through the podcast, but I was giving them my leftovers because I was out running my business all day. And then, I'd be like 9:30 at night, and I'd hop on a podcast, and I'd be dog tired. And I was giving my audience the leftovers, and I was giving my landscaping clients my best of my day. And so I realized I want to do the podcast and serve this audience full time and be an advisor and a consultant and a coach and stuff like that.
So if you haven't heard about GorillaDesk yet, it's a super sick software. It's actually made by one of my really close friends, Chris Mareshi. So Chris built GorillaDesk to help streamline his own personal business over 10 years ago. But now GorillaDesk is used by over 4,000 companies. And today it's become one of the most premier platforms in our industry. So what's really unique about GorillaDesk is that it's a simple all-in-one solution that's really easy for your team to use. GorillaDesk offers a seamless onboard experience and best-in-class support with no additional cost. It's all included in your subscription. Inside the software, you'll find a whole suite of features: scheduling, invoicing, routing, and sales pipelines, integrated VoIP, text messaging, and pretty much all the automation you're going to need, and much, much more. So if you guys are still relying on paper or spreadsheets or fighting with an old software, I highly recommend that you guys check out GorillaDesk. So we have a link in our description. Click on that and it'll take you right to their free trial. Now let's get back to the show.
In 2020, 2021, 2022, I started kind of slowly transitioning out of the, taking on less jobs and then doing more, doubling down on the podcast and making it better and serving my audience, as excellently as possible. And so Mr. Producer, who you met at the event, we basically made a goal of being the morning show where we have a piece of valuable content ready for everybody every morning, Monday through Friday, on the Green Industry Podcast, where if you hit play on the show, you're going to get value and served on your entrepreneur journey. So that's what we do now. We create a podcast every morning and serve our audience. And it's really cool to see the guys that listen to me now and gals, how they're avoiding so many of the mistakes I made because I'm sharing, don't do this, do this. And it's really helping. So that's what I'm up to now. I just wrote this new book, How to Build a Thriving Lawn Care Business. That's the latest venture that we're doing is How to Build a Thriving Lawn Care Business book is now out on Audible and on Amazon and the audiobook and all of that.
Yeah, everyone go check out the book. And that was one of my next questions that I had written down. At what point, do you ever think back in your lifetime, Paul, that you'd ever be an author? And then how did that come up?
Never. If you would have told my high school English teacher I would be a best-selling author, she would have fell over and fainted because I wasn't a great student or writer or things like that. So it just kind of came with the opportunities that were happening online. I realized I could share this, in audiobook format, and that's been really popular. So that's been a lot of fun to create audiobooks, and there's a paperback book as well. It's just the audiobook is what's selling like hotcakes. Folks, I think, like listening to it. And Mr. Producer is the narrator of the audiobook. So
really, you're not the narrator?
Nope, he narrates it.
That's awesome.
So
take us back to when you first got into all of this. Like, I remember you telling me a story. It's kind of just happened at Equip Expo or something, right? You were just trying to get some things set up there, and you were there. I don't remember what it's called back then, but
GIE.
Yeah, GIE. Like, kind of tell us, walk us through that story. Like, how did you become like an influencer in the industry?
Well, it was a slow process. And my first GIE, which they sold the show or changed the name, or so there's a changing of the guards. Now it's called the Equip Expo, and it's the favorite week of the year for me. I absolutely love it. It's 27,000. My people go to Louisville, and we just have a good old time. So 2017, I went for the first time, and I was starstruck, like seeing Naylor for the first time, and Blake Albertson, B&B Lawn Care, and Keith Kalfas, and all these guys. I was like, I met Keith for the first time, and it was awesome. And so, but nobody really knew who I was. I didn't have a podcast. I probably had like 500 Instagram followers. But Naylor recognized me because I was always commenting on his videos. So I think he knew Paul Jamison. I think he's like, yeah, you're the guy who comments on my videos. Like, yeah, dude. And I'm like starstruck. I'm like, it's Naylor. It's Keith Kalfas. Blake Albertson. I'm like, my heart's beating all fast meeting these guys. And they're my friends now, and they're kind of dork. I mean, they're kind of nerds. If you get to know them, it's just like, they're just regular human beings. But, yeah, that happened in 2017. And then I went back in 2018, and the podcast was 1 year. It started in 2018. So the podcast was brand new. So I just kind of told people about it on my way up to Equip. In 2018, I drove with my friend Russell Skipper, and I made him listen to my podcast as we drove up. I was like, dude, I got a podcast. Can we listen to it? And I could tell he didn't want to. He's like, yeah, in a little bit. And he kept like pushing me off. I was like, no, man, let's listen to it. And I'm like guerrilla marketing, like telling everyone, I got a podcast, man, you should check it out. And everything like that. So it was just, humble beginnings. And then eventually the Apple podcast algorithm started promoting us. So if you go on Apple, this is how a lot of people find us. They just type in lawn care, and then we pop up and they click on us and start listening. And so now when I go to Equip, people come up to me and I'm like, dude, I listen to your podcast every morning. And it just makes me feel so encouraged to keep creating the episodes.
Yeah, that's awesome. How often, other than podcasts, how often are you creating content right now?
Every day. I post on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram every day. And then the podcast is 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And I usually take one day off a week, either Saturday or Sunday. And I just don't post on anything. I just have a Sabbath day, a rest day,
Yeah. And how many episodes in to your podcast did it really start to take off, do you think?
I could probably go back and look at the graph of when it exploded, but the first 2018 and 2019, I didn't have a publishing schedule. So I would make an episode, then I'd go do a side job and get in the weeds on my business, and I'd post an episode 2 weeks later. And then we'd have like 3 days of rain, and I'd batch a whole bunch of episodes, and I'd post, it was so sporadic. And my buddy Brian Fullerton in 2019, he asked me to help him start his podcast. So I flew up to Michigan, and we got the Roadcaster, the mic set up, and I got them all going. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to make my podcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I was like, that's a good idea. Like, he has like a schedule, you know what I mean? I was like, why didn't I think of that? So I was like, well, I'll just do daily. I was like, that's pretty simple, because at the radio station, I worked at a radio station too, part-time, where I met Mr. Producer, but they had a radio show there. The morning show was 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every day. David and Leanna Stein, were the DJ host, 4-hour show every day, Monday through Friday. So I was like, they do a daily show that's 4 hours. I was like, I could easily do a 30-minute daily show podcast. To me, it was like, some people were impressed, like, dude, that's every day. And in my mind, I'm like, that's underachieving. It's only 30 minutes, So in 2020, when I went daily, I think it really took off, because the numbers, I think we had a record month was 162,000 audio podcast downloads, unique downloads, like from Spotify and Apple, 162,000. And some people, like my boy Tony Rudolph in Georgia, I think he listens every day. So that might have been like 25 listens from him, because if you listen every day, you're going to listen 24, 25 episodes a month. And then some people might only listen to a few a month, but still, I'm like, that's crazy that there's thousands of business owners out there trusting us for advice, and it puts pressure on me. I'm like, some people that listen to my show are really, really, really advanced in business. I'm just like, oh man, I hope I'm adding value to their business. So.
Yeah. And if you weren't, they probably wouldn't listen anymore, right? Of your podcasts, how many of them do you have a guest on, and how many do you run solo?
About half and half. Yeah, I feel like the guest interviews get more comments, and like when I'm at a trade show, I listen to what people say when they come up to me and be like, man, I remember when you and Naylor, said that joke, and I had to stop mowing. My customer was looking out the window wondering why I'm laughing so hard, and I was listening. And so I remember, and like when they share those stories, a lot of times it's when I have a guest on and there's a funny moment. There's a guy named Pookie, Lamont Hairston. He's been on the show a lot. And he always just says the funniest stuff. He doesn't try to be funny, but he just says funny stuff. And people always like, man, Pookie. And so, yeah, I try to have guests on, but the problem is my guests all run lawn businesses and landscaping businesses and pest control businesses. And it's hard to get people, scheduled down and stuff like that. So for me, it's way easier to wake up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, come in the studio, which I'll have a studio in about a week. I just moved to Sarasota, Florida, and I haven't built my studio yet, but it's easier for me to just come in and crank out a solo episode. So we do a lot of those as well, just for the sake of keeping the show going.
For sure. I know last time you and I were together, think you were living right outside Atlanta, right?
The north side of Atlanta, Cumming, Georgia is where I live. And I just moved to downtown Sarasota, Florida, right here off the Gulf of Mexico.
You were telling me you were thinking about moving. You were thinking about maybe Florida. So what was the final decision to move to Florida?
Well, number one, I love golfing.
We know that Instagram posts daily.
Yeah, so I went golfing with Brett Goodyear today. Some of you guys know him. He's a big lawn care guy. And the golf in Florida, you can golf year round. So that was a deciding factor. There's no state income tax, which is a huge, that's thousands of dollars of income tax savings. The weather down here is just phenomenal. It's, sunny every day. It usually rains for like an hour or two in the afternoon. It's kind of strange. I'm not used to that. Like it'll be sunny all morning and then it'll rain for an hour and then it'll be a rainbow and then it will be sunny all afternoon. And also I love the beach. So I can walk to the beach, or I can ride a scooter to the beach, or I can just drive my car to the beach. I can walk over the bay. I live literally downtown. If you've ever been to Sarasota, I live on the main street downtown. It's just absolutely awesome down here. So I figured I'd come try it out. I wanted to move to Tampa, honestly, but I ended up coming to Sarasota, and I figure I'd try Sarasota first. If I don't like it, I'll go up to Tampa. But I love Florida. It's been a wonderful 2 weeks.
That's cool. And then I think about like just content alone, the weather that's pretty much nice year round. So you don't have to stop doing content through the winter too. You can go shoot whenever you want to.
Yeah, I can shoot golf content, lawn care content. The grass is growing year round. The golf weather's going year round. I've really been for my creative juices. I've started a golf content. So on Facebook, I started Paul Jamison Golf. I got 13 followers, not 13,000, just 13. But I've been going at it all year. So I started with no followers, and I got my first follower. Then I would I would cheer along, like I'd have 8 followers, and it would go back to 7. I was like, I must have made someone mad. So now I'm all the way up to 13 followers. But it's really cool because it's like it's made me. I got kind of complacent and lazy with the green industry podcast content because it's kind of established, and I can post something that's going to get a decent amount of views, and it's just easy. So this is kind of got me as a creator doing golf content. And I started new pages. I started YouTube, Paul Jamison Golf, a Facebook, Paul Jamison Golf. And I'm back in the beginning stages when the green industry podcast was in its infancy in 2018. It's kind of got me back in that. And it's really fun. If you're an entrepreneur, you know what it's like in the scratching and clawing and getting something off the ground days. So to answer your story about Florida, I knew if I wanted to make golf content, this is the place to be.
Right on. That's cool. And then speaking of followers, your Instagram, you have 100,000 plus, right? Somewhere in there?
122,000 on Instagram.
When did that take off, and how long were you posting on there before it started to take off?
Yeah, I went to Arkansas with less than 10,000 followers. What would that have been? 2021 maybe. And on this Arkansas trip, I had been posting Instagram Reels. So Instagram Reels had just come out, and I visited the lawn tools there out in Arkansas. I visited Fayark Lawn Care, Eric Hill from Fayark Lawn Care, and filmed some content with him. And one of my reels popped off, and I got to 10,000 Instagram followers. And I thought I was going to have to move to Los Angeles. Like I was like 10,000 Instagram followers. I was in the gym, and there's this hot girl working out in Arkansas. And I was like trying to like show her like, look, I got 10,000 Instagram followers. Give me that number. Let me get that number. And I actually talked to her and told her I was a social media influencer. It was a horrific experience. I got flustered. She was so attractive. And I was in Arkansas at the hotel in the gym there, and I was like, yeah, I'm an influencer. And then I was like, can I get your number? She's like, I got a boyfriend. And I just left. I was like, God, it was rough. But it gave me confidence that I had 10,000 Instagram followers. And then it went it quickly went to 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, 80,000. And it was wild. Now it's at like 122,000. But there's a business principle called the first mover advantage. Daniel Lappin wrote about it, but on Instagram Reels in 2021, there was a lot of demand because everyone's on Instagram, and there was very, very, very small supply. So I got rewarded for being a first mover and actually posting Instagram Reels. So my baseline in 2011, pardon me, I keep saying 2011, that's when I started my lawn business. 2021 is when I believe Instagram rolled out the Reels. My baseline was I couldn't get less than 10,000 views. I could post anything, just mowing grass, no music, no hook, no nothing, just me and Jason mowing. Minimum 10,000 views, very likely 100,000 views. And honestly, there were several videos that got 10 million views, and they were nothing. I mean, when I say nothing, I just took my phone, we're mowing, I just go like this and film, no editing, no nothing, upload, 10 million views, 11 million views, 12 million views. It kept happening. And I was like, this is way too easy. Now, supply and demand, now the demand is the same as it's been. It's the same amount of people scrolling Instagram, maybe even less. And the supply, everybody's making content now. So now, if I get 10,000 views, it's a humongous victory. Whereas it used to be the basement floor foundation baseline. Now it's like, really difficult to get that many views. So it's all about supply and demand. And that's how I got a lot of followers on Instagram, is I was in the right place at the right time, creating the right pieces of content when Instagram Reels ruled out.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of what happened to me too. We were one of the first pest control companies to get on TikTok. So it instantly started like 10,000 views, 100,000 views, 200,000 views, 500,000, 600,000. Then it was millions, and it was like just early there, And then I almost do the same thing on YouTube, even though there's a lot of people making a ton of content. It wasn't the same content that we were making. Just not a whole lot of pest control operators that were just sticking with it, just being consistent. And I feel like that's kind of how we grew fast too,
It's a big struggle now. It's just the views aren't there like they used to be, but I keep posting every day, Facebook Reel, Instagram Reel, TikTok, YouTube Short. And every now and again, last week I had a YouTube Short hit 1 million views. So that was really encouraging.
Awesome.
But then the other ones might be just a few hundred or a few thousand, and then boom, one popped off. But you never know when that one video is going to pop off, and you're one video away from your life changing. So it's like, I don't play slot machines. I've played them before, but if you're in there all day and you keep doing the thing, eventually you might hit a jackpot. And that's not the greatest analogy, because you would waste a lot of money doing that on the slot machine. But with this, it's like, I just keep trying every day, and, hopefully people see my face and recognize me, and, it's building my brand and stuff like that as well, which is part of the goal.
Yeah. And I feel like the same lines, like it's weird. Like most of our videos at this point get 10,000 views, but then you'll post one that gets like 300 views. Like what? How do we go from 10 to 12, 15, 100,000 million to 200 views? Like it's so weird. But it's just, again, I think you can learn just as much from those views, or lack thereof, as you can of the big wins too, I have Podcast Row written down. You were a big part of that. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about Podcast Row? It was super awesome. Like the first time I saw a video, I was like, what are these guys doing? It's like in the back of GIE or Expo, Equipex or something. It's weird.
Yeah. So at the Super Bowl, radio was very popular in the 1970s, 80s, 1990s, even into the 2000s. Radio was just very popular. People loved to consume content through audio. And so at the Super Bowl, the NFL, football Super Bowl, the radio stations for sports, they all meet at what's called Radio Row. And this is at the Super Bowl. So at Radio Row, you have, 97.9 from New York and with the one from LA and the Sports Fan and all these various, major market radio stations all go there. And then Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, or, Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur. I know you're Green Bay. I don't know the Packers guys, but
you hit it nail on the head though. Rodgers, Matt LaFleur.
All right. So they have, the week of the Super Bowl, they basically just go from radio booth to radio booth to radio booth to radio booth. And then more recently, the last 7 or 8 years, it's been podcast booths. So they still have some traditional radio stations there, but a lot of the booths are like Pat McAfee has one, and Stephen A. Smith, and like all those kind of guys have their booth at Radio Row. And so Mr. Producer, who I keep referencing, he really has a servant's heart, and he's always he actually called me today just giving me some ideas of how I can make the show better. It's so awesome to have a human being like that who's just a great guy. But anyway, I bring him up because he's like, hey, what they do at the Super Bowl for Radio Row, you guys need to be doing at your big events. Like, you just need to set up all the top podcasters, just set up in a row, and then the leaders and the influencers and the who's who in the industry can just kind of go down the line and hop on your show for a few minutes, hop on the other guy's show for a few minutes, and just kind of, it makes it easy, for whoever the guest to just kind of go down the line, and then they love it because they're on, Pat McAfee's show, and then they're, Stephen A. Smith's show, and they just kind of go around, and it's great. So we started doing them. Naylor kind of pioneered it and made it an actual thing. And we did it at an event called Synced Live in Atlanta. And then we did it at several events now. We went to Nashville. We did a pressure washing event there, and we set up and everything. And now this year, it's the biggest stage for it. It's going to be at the Equip Expo. The Pod Row has its own section where Pajak's going to have his podcast, Mike Garvey, Cornell Mack, Naylor, myself, Profits with Pajak. If anybody wants to come, just let Naylor know. It's not just talk to Naylor, and he'll get you the time and space to be there. But it's basically anybody who has a serious podcast that wants to be involved, just reach out to Naylor and say, hey, what do I got to do to get into Pod Row? And the Equip Expo, I think, is like $85,000 if we paid for that real estate at the show, because they only have 1,000 exhibitors and it's sold out every year. So if you wanted to get a booth at Equip, you couldn't. You could get on the waiting list, but they ran out of space. So the 1,000 exhibitors, most of them are like, sign us back up next year, because there's 27,000 people there. So they're giving us, I don't know if I'm allowed to be saying all this, but Naylor's probably going to text me when he hears this. Like, dude, you're not supposed to talk about that out loud. But basically, like $85,000 worth of booth space they're investing in us, the podcaster, which is really big for our community, because they could just sell that to X, Y, and Z brand and everything like that. But they get the value of us on our podcast talking about the Equip Expo all the time. They get it. They're like, so the show's been around for 40 years. And about 2011, it started, attendance started dipping. The booths, I forget the name, the exhibitors, I think is what they called, that started dipping down. And it just really started tanking. And then in 2014, maybe, a guy named Greg Chisholm, Geek the Freak, he was the biggest YouTuber in our industry at the time, and the biggest personality and everything. And he saw a bunch of these fitness guys, went to an Arnold Schwarzenegger event in Columbus, Ohio. And he said he saw that they like met up, because the big guys were like, yeah, meet us outside of the chicken wing store at this time, and we'll like eat chicken wings and talk about how buff we are, whatever. So he was like, they're like hanging out, So he's like, let's try that at a lawn care event. He's like, I heard there's something called the GIE in Louisville. He's like, let's go to this GIE thing. And let's go meet up in the parking lot so we can meet each other, for those who've been watching on YouTube. So I wasn't able to go. I had a commitment that week, But I watched on YouTube afterwards, like Stan Genetic and Keith Kalfas and Naylor and Blake Albertson and the guy who pioneered it all, Greg Chisholm. They were all out in the parking lot meeting each other, like, oh man, I watch your videos and everything. So then, because of the social media shout outs, the next year, everyone's like, I got to be there. And so what ended up happening is the attendance of the event started dipping. Greg calls for a meetup in the parking lot with people that watch him on social media. And then since then, the attendance has just been record-breaking year. Every year has been a record-breaking year now, and it's just like a hockey stick to the right going up. And last year, there's 27,000 attendees, sold out show, all because of, the majority of it is because of us, the podcasters, the YouTubers, the social media folks saying, you got to go to the Equip Expo. You got to go to the Equip Expo. It's our time to hang out. And because we all say that, people go, have a great time, and the show has record-breaking years. So I think because of that, Equip is giving us, primetime real estate to do Pod Row on their dime, essentially. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. What would you say to all the people who want to start a YouTube or a podcast? What would be some advice that you give them?
Well, this is what Jonathan Potosnik told me.
I know what's coming.
At the event we're at. First of all, you have to know who your ideal customer is. So are you building a YouTube channel or a podcast for your local home service? Like, you want to brand yourself as the authority of, being the guy in your local market? Or are you trying to do more what I'm doing, being a consultant, a coach, an advisor, more so worldwide? Most of the guys and gals that I coach are in the United States, but I've done calls with people in Canada and stuff like that, help them. The business principles are the business principles. But number one in anything, you need to know who is your ideal customer, who is your avatar, who are you serving, and how are you serving them? So I would answer that before I would start a podcast or a YouTube channel. But what's crazy about podcasts, YouTube channels, social media, for the most part, it's free. Now for the podcast, I pay a few $100 a month to host it. So it's not technically free. I'm paying to host it, but for all practical purposes, it's only a few $100s a month. And when you start out, you don't have to pay that much. I just got to pay that much because I got millions of downloads, and it's just, whatever. But I would say, if you're not branding yourself online, whether it's YouTube, which is connected to Google, the biggest search engine in the world, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, I just see so much upside of it. So I'm a big proponent into creating content and being on these platforms that's essentially getting your word out there. Back in the day, if you had a business, you had to pay the newspaper to run an ad for you, or you had to pay the billboard. And then eventually it went to you had to pay the radio station, and then it went to you had to pay the television. Now, for free, you can make a YouTube short and get 10,000 views or 1 million views. You can make it Instagram reel. And yeah, it's hard. The supply and demand shifted, but still you can get your message out there about your business. So, I think you should be making content. And the other thing is, your content, your first 100 pieces of content is going to be lousy. If you go back and listen to my first 100 podcasts, it's cringe. It's horrible. It's rough, but you get better. You get those reps under your belt, and then you start getting a little bit better at getting to the point and hooking people's attention and bringing some value. And I would be very encouraging to anybody to be more proactive with creating content, but just know who your ideal customer is, so you're not just willy-nilly making content. I have friends, Al Blades and SB Mowing and Lawn Care Juggernaut, and these guys, Phil's Lawn Care, and they go out and they mow people's grass for free and make little videos of it. So they found their little unique approach on it, and they monetize that and do really well for themselves. And then I have other folks that make content, like John Pajak's makes content about profits, and then he consults with people that want to know more about the numbers of their business. And then I know other people that just make content for their local business, home service business, and just show off, like my boy Jeremy Talboy, just like, hey, we're doing this patio paver job today, and I'll show you what we're doing. And then when the local people in the market go to his Instagram, they see all these banger jobs. It helps bring revenue in that way. So there's several different ways you can make money online. There's not a right or wrong way, but at least know what path you want to take before you start creating the content, because there's a lot of strategy involved.
Yeah, it's great advice. And then, you just talked about being a coach. What do you do now, Paul? Like, who do you coach? What industries do you coach, and what all do you do?
My sweet spot is lawn care and landscaping, and that's kind of where I started. However, a lot of interest is in social media. So I actually have a 90-day accelerator program I created for anybody that wants to learn all the secrets that I've learned about how to grow on social media, how to get brand partnerships. I work with brands like I've worked with Lowe's, John Deere, Jobber, Relay Bank. The Toro Company, Echo. I could go down and down the list. So some people want to know, like, how do I get brand deals? How do I blow up on social media? So yeah. And so I'm happy to help, whether you want to learn how to grow your online presence or you want to just learn how to be more profitable in your lawn care business. I could help you either way. At thepauljameson.com, I have the mentorship for the 90-day accelerator, because for me, I believe we got to work together for 3 months to really set a 90-day actionable goal, and then really start, we can meet once a week and just get after that goal. And after 90 days, you'll be transformed. So it's a lot of fun for me. It's very, 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 very satisfying and rewarding to see people succeed, whether it's in your traditional business or online. So
yeah, you're doing a hell of a job. I think the first time I met you was it your first speaking gig, and you just absolutely crushed it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Was the first time I spoke on stage. I go to all these events and I'm just in the back room podcasting, which is fine. I enjoy that. But Naylor took a chance and gave me the microphone with you and Jonathan Potoshnik sitting in the back, and all, Jonathan's worth probably $100 million, and he's just sitting there like staring at me. And I'm like, Jesus, please help me say something smart.
He was taking notes.
Yeah. David Shands was back there running the soundboard. David Shands, he had a $5 million day. He sold $5 million of revenue in one day recently. And he's had $1 million day. He's a very, very, very successful entrepreneur. He's got a podcast called, I forget the name of his podcast, but David Shands, what's the name of his podcast? Social Proof Podcast. But he's like the leader in the podcasting space. It was at his place, but he was in the back of the room, and Jonathan Potoshnik, and that was my first speaking engagement. I was like, man, this is intimidating.
Well, you did great.
I appreciate it. But podcasting, like, it's just me and you. It's just two people, so there's no pressure. But when you're standing on stage looking at someone worth hundreds of millions, or I don't know what Jonathan's net worth is, but none of my business. But a lot. It's got to be a lot. And then David Shands is back there running the sound, and he's a multimillionaire. I was just like, let's go.
Yeah, it was fun. What do the next, 3 to 5 years look like for you, Paul?
Just taking one day at a time. I've really tried to get my health in order. I was reading a proverb today, and it said, I don't have it memorized, but it was laying in my bed. I was supposed to be waking up to go golfing, and I had the Proverbs on my audio Bible playing, and there's one that said, when you have peace of heart, it will lead to good health, or something like that. There was a correlation between your heart being peaceful to your actual physical health being good. So one of my goals 3 to 5 years is, and Jonathan Potoshnik had a big influence on this. He called it the business athlete. So I'm really going to kind of shift my gear and like preparing my body as if I was an NFL player or a NHL player, a MLS player, whatever your favorite sport is, the cream of the crop, whether it's Ronaldo or LeBron James or what's your guys' quarterback out there in Green Bay now? Love?
Yeah, Jordan Love.
Jordan Love. those guys spend so much time, energy, money on their bodies so that on Sunday or whatever day they perform, they're at peak performance. And so another reason why I moved to Florida is I wanted like just to, the nice weather makes it easier to get out and be active and stuff like that. So I'm a big focus on my health. I've been going to a cycling class every day, riding the bike and pushing my body to get into shape. My spiritual journey, Jonas, like I'm definitely trying to get my decisions improved and make, clean up my life and get things on track in that component. Not that it's like way off track, but it's just like I'm resetting the basics. Like make sure I'm living right for God, make sure I'm taking care of my body, and then listening to the market. Like when people start asking me a bunch of questions like, Paul, teach me how to do social media, I just got to pay attention. Okay, there's a market for this. How can I solve this person's problem? And I'm not just going to always do, the old school, well, I've always helped people just with their route density in their lawn business, so I'm going to do that the rest of my life. No, I'm really listening. Are there other problems that I can solve? Is there other ways that I can help people? And so I don't have a clear answer, Jonas, but I'm definitely more in tuned and trying to figure out. I feel like there's bigger problems that I can solve. I just haven't fully put all the puzzle pieces together yet. But it's exciting down here in Florida.
Yeah, and you work your tail off. We were running a podcast. What was it 10:30, 11 o'clock at night? We got back to the hotel, and you were just still over there editing videos and editing podcasts. Like you don't put it down either. So you're doing a hell of a job, and you're doing a lot for the industry. So it doesn't go unnoticed.
Yeah, it's part of why I'm single.
You said you love to help people out, and I remember I flew into Jason Creel's event. I walked in, you're like, "Hey, just so you know, you're speaking." I was like, "Wait, what?" Yeah, we're gonna have you up there. Like, it was just cool. So I appreciate the opportunities that you given me already too.
Yeah, totally. But that event was on a Saturday. I hosted it all day, so there's the pressure of making sure everyone's happy. And then after that, you and Pajak and Naylor banged out a banger episode. That was a really good episode you guys did. That was really good. And I was just sitting over there 10:30 at night, Saturday night, working on my podcast, editing the footage from the day. So it's people don't realize how much hard work it is, but it's very, very, very rewarding.
And that was the Lawn Care Life. What is that? What the event was called? Lawn
Care Life Conference. Yeah, buddy. We got it coming back next year, February. Alabama again. We're actually doing VIP tickets next year because we have Greg Crabtree's team coming in. They're going to be doing on Friday. They're going to be teaching about money. They wrote the book Simple Numbers, Big Profits. Yeah, yep. Greg Crabtree.
Of course they do.
If you can get him on your podcast, man, him and his team, Brandon Gray from his team is going to be doing like 5 different. He sent us the syllabus. It's just like attacking the numbers of your business. Like, how do you invest in marketing? How do you measure your ROIs on marketing? How do you know when to hire the next employee? How much can you pay the next employee? Just all these business questions from a financial perspective. They're going to be doing a VIP day on Friday all day about the numbers at the Lawn Care Life Conference. So those tickets have been selling like absolute hotcakes. So I know it's not till next February, but you were there.
Do you have a link for that as well?
Yeah, just thepauljameson.com. I sent it to Sofia. So everything, you can get the 90-day accelerator if you want me to coach you for 90 days, or you can get the Lawn Care Life Conference. That's all at thepauljameson.com. That's my website.
It's awesome. Everyone go check it out. The event was awesome though. It was so much fun, and it was different, out of my element. It was with a bunch of lawn care guys. It was super awesome. I had a lot of fun. Got to meet a lot of people. Got to hang out with you guys. Definitely recommend the event. Got to meet Jason Creel. He had that one lady that was, what do they call her? It was like Aunt or Miss or something. I can't remember. Aunt Ray, something like that.
Yeah, she was
Mama
awesome.
Ray.
Mama Ray. That's it. Yeah. Mama Ray. She's awesome.
Yeah, so she was really cool. Just, got to meet a lot of awesome people there, and hopefully impacted some lives there too. I'm going to end the podcast with last question. And it's about an hour and kind of got you a little bit longer than I told you that I would, because we had some technical difficulties in the front end of this, but we got through it. To this point in your life, Paul, what are you most proud of?
And that's a really good question, Jonas. A few things. These books how to build a thriving lawn care business. Like when I die, the book is still going to be here. Like someone can pick it up on their coffee shop and read it. And for the most part, if you make like an Instagram reel, like after 24 hours or whatever, it's usually, I mean, it's probably out there somewhere. Like my grandkids could probably find some of them videos or whatever, but I think it's easier to find stuff on YouTube, but it's like an actual book. I poured my heart and soul in this. And when hopefully I make it into heaven is my goal. But this book will still be back on earth, and, somebody can pick it up and, Amazon prints it. So it should be, I mean, if you've ever been to a library or bookstore, like books from, Think and Grow Rich from 1937, you can still read it. So, that's definitely, something I'm proud of. The Green Industry Podcast has transformed, countless lives of people listening, whether they listen to us for a month or 2 or 3, or our diehard listeners, they can tell you what truck I drive or when I sell my truck or what city I live in. They listen every day, and they know more about me, and I forgot about that, So that's the podcast has been awesome as well. And the last thing I'm proud of is my network. So yesterday I was hanging out at the pool down here in Sarasota. It's a beautiful day, and I was laying in the pool. They got these chairs you can lay in the pool, and I'm on the phone with Naylor and Payjack, and we talked for like 2 hours. And they was like, "Hey, so I'll hop on a quick call," and then we 3-way in, and then it's like 2 hours later, and we're just like, we're just full of all this energy and like, "Oh, you should do this." And we just like, so I'm just very, very thankful, proud, grateful, appreciative for the network, Mr. Producer, you, Jonas, like getting to meet Jonathan Potoshnik, and just the people that are in my life. I'm surrounded by most of the entrepreneurs, but go-getters that are kicking butt, taking names, men of character, like, people that want to serve others well. I mean, it's amazing the people that are in my cell phone that I could text or call. It's just, I'm very thankful to God that he's connected me with awesome people. It makes me very grateful.
That's awesome. And again, thanks for being here, but also thanks for your friendship, and thanks for letting me into your network. And I appreciate all you've done for me.
You took the proactive initiative to give Naylor your card and be like, "Sign me up. I'll be there. Hop on a plane. Let's go. Where are we going again? Atlanta. Okay. I'll be there."
And I made it. And
then you rinse and repeat it in Alabama. And both of those trips, I think, added a lot of value to your life, Jonas. So I'm glad you came.
Cool. Awesome, Paul. Well, again, thanks for being here with us today. Go kick some ass. Hey guys, thanks for listening to another episode of Pest Control Millionaire. We don't charge any money for the show, obviously, but the podcast isn't free. You can pay for the podcast by sharing it with your friends and your family. So please like and subscribe and give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. These things make a huge difference for us. If you have any specific questions you want answered about the business or your life by me or my guests, send an email to info@pestcontrolmillionaire.com. And if you want to get in touch with me about any personal business coaching, check out our website at www.pestcontrolmillionaire.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you guys again on the next one.